Why don't you take that painted face and go back to the gutter where you came from? This is a decent neighborhood. I'll never forget those words, the way they just hung there in the air as if time itself was daring me to do something about it. All I know is that was the moment everything changed for us. It was a Saturday so perfect it almost felt staged, sun-shining breeze just enough to keep you comfortable, the smell of fresh-cut grass drifting down the block. I was out in the garage messing with the old mower grease on my hands, humming some Motown under my breath, feeling lucky. My wife was on her way back from a little stroll. She does that when she wants a few minutes of peace, and let me tell you, she looked like she owned the day. Braids, looking sharp, tailored blazer pants that said she meant business makeup just the way she likes it, not too much, just enough to feel like herself. I was still smiling when I heard the shouting. I poked my head out just in time to see her. The woman 3 houses down, the one who walks her dog in those ridiculous pink tracksuits. She was standing on her perfect patch of lawn, clutching this giant plastic cup like a scepter, absolutely vibrating with fury. My wife, God bless her, just stood there calm, collected, like she'd just been mistaken for the principal's kid, until the woman marched right up to our property line and yelled loud enough for the whole street to hear that line about the painted face and the gutter. For a second, I swear the world went silent, except for the blood rushing in my ears. Before I could even get across the garage, she took 2 quick steps forward and, I kid you not, threw the contents of her cup right into my wife's face. Not a slip, not an accident. She did it on purpose. I saw the water, or whatever it was, hit my wife head on, streaking her makeup, mascara running, and her mouth just hanging open in shock. Not anger yet, just this stunned, broken confusion standing in her own damn driveway. I'm not a violent man, but in that instant I saw red. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" I yelled, sprinting toward them. My voice didn't even sound like mine, deep or meaner. The neighbor just smiled triumphant and backed up onto her own property, holding that empty cup like a little trophy. "Someone had to teach her a lesson," she sneered. "We don't allow that kind of presentation around here. It's trashy." Trashy, she really said that. My wife was still frozen, water dripping off her chin, her perfect blazer ruined, and I swear every muscle in my body was screaming at me to do something I'd regret. I stopped just short of the property line, shaking finger pointed. "You are out of your mind," I said. "You assaulted my wife. I'm calling the police right now." And for a flicker of a second, that smug look slipped, but she just spat. "Go ahead. Tell them your wife was causing a scene. No one will believe you." And then she spun on her heel, strutted back toward her house like she'd just taken out the trash. That's the thing that really got me, not the violence, not the bigotry, the sheer confidence that she'd get away with it. I turned to my wife. She was shaking, eyes wide, not even crying yet. "Are you okay?" I whispered, trying to keep it together. She just nodded, wiped at her cheek, smearing the mess even more. My heart broke and burned at the same time. I pulled out my phone, fingers fumbling, and dialed 911. Right then, her door slammed. The engine of her old sedan screamed to life, not just starting, but roaring, as she floored it in park. For a second, I thought she was going to peel out and run, but no, she yanked it into reverse, shot out of the driveway, swerved like a crazy person, missed our mailbox by inches, then with this wild look in her eyes, floored it straight at our white picket fence. The crash was unreal. Wood exploded everywhere. The car ripped through, plowed right into the azalea bush by our porch, and just stopped. For a second it was so quiet I could hear the ticking of her engine cooling down and a splinter clattering onto the sidewalk. My wife let out a little sob. That's when I realized this wasn't just a crazy neighbor with a temper. She'd used her car as a weapon. She sat there for a moment, then got out, looking at the wreckage. No remorse. Nothing but cold defiance. Like she wanted us to see. That's when I finally finished dialing. The police showed up a few minutes later, first a young officer, then an older, grizzled one. And let me tell you, if you've ever seen how quickly a concerned citizen can flip the script, it's enough to make you sick. She gave the performance of her life, frail old lady, hand on her chest. Shaking, said we'd threatened her. She was so scared the crash was an accident. She even had a witness, the old man across the street, HOA's unofficial deputy, who backed up every lie. I tried to tell the truth, how she'd yelled, "Through water, drove her car on purpose." The officer just sighed, called it a he said, she said, and told me the only thing for sure was property damage. File an insurance claim, he said. The rest, there's no way to prove it. When I saw the official police report, it was even worse. Her lies written up in black and white, her friend's corroboration, and a line about how I was agitated and angry. Our side 3 sentences at the end, barely even there. Insurance got the same story. They read the report, suddenly weren't so sure we weren't partially to blame. We'll investigate, but you could be found liable for the events that led to the accident. For existing, I guess. For my wife wearing makeup. For 2 days, we lived behind a blue tarp where our fence used to be, barely talking blinds, closed, hearts broken. Then in the middle of another sleepless night, I remembered the new doorbell camera I'd installed a week before. I almost tripped, running to the app, heart pounding. And there it was, the whole thing, crystal clear, high-def audio and all. The Karen yelling the slurs, the water, my wife's gasp, the car roaring, the fence shattering. Proof. Not he said, she said. Just she said. And boy, did she say a lot. We took the footage straight to the police, waited hours for a detective, handed him the flash drive. Watching that detective's face go from bored to serious as he replayed the video, seeing him rewind the crash and actually see what happened. That was the first flicker of hope we'd felt since this started. He opened a new investigation, told us to give a full statement. Not a win, not yet, but a start. Yet. We barely had time to breathe before the next punch landed, a letter from the HOA. Violation notice and a pending fine. For what? For the destroyed fence, the one she smashed, for aggressive behavior in public, her friend's formal complaint. A board hearing threat of more fines, even legal action. My wife stared at the letter, then out at the blue tarp. She's fining us for the fence she destroyed, she said, voice flat. And they're calling us aggressive. We weren't even mad anymore. Just tired. It was a war on every front, the law, the neighborhood, the HOA. That night we dug out the bylaws, realized the board could interpret the rules however they wanted. It was a game we could never win alone. My wife remembered a friend who'd gone through a discrimination case, and within hours we had the name of a civil rights attorney. He listened, really listened, then watched the video. He laid out a plan: assault, property destruction, emotional distress, defamation, hate crime enhancement, lawsuit against her, her neighbor for false witness, and the HOA for retaliation. First step. His letter made the HOA fold. The violation vanished overnight. Second step, the lawsuit. Thick envelopes delivered to the Karen and her friend by official couriers. The whole street watched as the story started to turn. But then something else happened. A neighbor, a single mom with banana bread in hand, knocked on our back door. "I wanted you to know not everyone believes them," she whispered. "That woman's been a terror for years." A young guy with a driveway camera offered to check his footage. Small, quiet acts of solidarity. Not a parade, but enough to know we weren't alone. Turns out the self-appointed kings and queens were feared but not loved. When depositions came, our lawyer let the Karen spin her lies under oath, more dramatic than ever. "I was in fear for my life," she claimed. Then our lawyer set the trap, played the video for her. Her lawyer, the court reporter. You could see the mask crumble, see her face drain, hear her own words echoing back at her painted face, gutter teaching her a lesson. Suddenly the victim routine didn't fit anymore. That's the real lesson here. The truth doesn't always win on its own, but it's patient. Sometimes it needs help, a champion, and a whole lot of grit. Justice isn't just about laws and rules. It's about fighting back when the game is rigged and refusing to let hate have the last word. So let me ask you, if it happened to you, would you fight back or would you let them chase you out? Drop your thoughts down below. Tell me where you're watching from or share your own story. Do you think justice is possible when the system's stacked against you? And have you ever seen a neighborhood feud go this far? Let's hear it. And hey, Don't forget to stand up for what's right even when it's hard. You never know who's watching and who needs to see it.